it happens.
Let's go. Oh yeah, here we go.
Yeah. So.
Oh man. First
What a
things
day.
first. I need to have a Gazan gummy to get ready, nice and calm for this.
How come that's already like empty? You've been eating them like candy, aren't you?
Yeah, 100%. He's on his 15th.
Yeah.
I share them.
Share them.
Yeah,
I guess. Yeah. Okay. All right.
There's a lot of crazy kids around here. Got to keep them calm.
Steven, that's what you need for the potty train right there. Give some good.
I think that's what it is. If I showed you the crime scene that happened about half an hour ago when Brian messaged me, you know, it was not fun. Oh, we're there. We're getting there.
Who is the handsome guy in the middle? Who the heck are you, Steven Rayner?
Oh yes.
Don't give me the 5-minute rundown. We did
it last night, right?
Yeah, we did an episode actually with Steven for Fitness Under Fire that will be coming out in a couple of weeks. But you were quick on the draw today. Obviously, WFP announced a location change. You're pretty plugged in with the UK scene. You seem pretty amped up and pumped about this. You got a lot going on at home, but I wanted to at least get you on for a few minutes to give us a perspective from a guy who's heavily invested in the UK community, from a coaching, gym ownership, athlete, media, and competition perspective. What happened for you today when you saw this news?
I was so happy with this. So it's for me, WFP is something that kind of lives on the sidelines because in the UK we're far away from stuff, right? So you had Copenhagen and we had the American dates and whatever else. But I've longed for something like this in the fitness world. It isn't just a one-off like the games or whatever. And for this to develop into some type of tour thing to follow along like football fans get and, you know, whatever else, it's just the idea of that is massive. So for that to becoming so close to home soil, like I get that there's this, whatever, some people have a view between CrossFit and this, whatever else. If you're a fan of fitness and competitive fitness, this being here this close to us with some of the best and fittest people in the world is just, there's nothing like it. The closest we got was Rogue and everybody was like, whoa, this is a one-off once in a lifetime. It's not once in a lifetime because it's happening again soon here. And it's like, you know what I mean? And it's just cool because we're such a small place with such a small representation, and to be able to just get a train down and go to this stuff is just amazing. So like, I think it's massive for it being here. Obviously it's a shame it's not going where it was going, but obviously circumstances change, but you know, I'll be greedy and selfish and say it's unbelievable that it's coming here. So mega gas for it. I think it's a great opportunity for brands, gyms, like just everybody to be involved as much as humanly possible in it, put everything else aside and just get all in amongst it. That's my opinion. So that's where the excitement comes from when I posted about it.
Yeah. And I mean, and we do know that you also could have to leave at any minute. So, you know, we want to take advantage of the time we have with you. But before anything else, I also just want to say, like, it's not although it's a very exciting thing, and immediately there's a lot of people who have to reconsider potentially their plans for the season, whether it's media, spectators, fans, but especially athletes are going to have like a lot to talk about, which is one of the things we wanted to do today. I just want to say that whoever you are and wherever you are in the world, and when you saw this news, whatever your first thought was about it, I can assure you that the WFP has thought about it already. From your perspective, like, this was not a decision that was made lightly. I had a chance to do a short podcast for WFP with Jason Ansley, the director of events, yesterday. And, you know, from Saturday, Sunday, when things started happening there and the U.S. government made some initial statements about it, they've been reaching out and thinking about thoroughly every aspect of this. It's not, we talked, you know, the show that we're releasing in 2 weeks, Stephen, talks about competitions and how difficult it is to pull those off. Imagine putting yourself
having to pull the plug is just, even as soon as I saw it, I was like, that is mind-boggling. Like, even just going, we have to cancel it. We're not only just going to cancel it, but move it. Logistics, the feelings of people, like you said, the athletes, the vendors, the media. So just for clarification for anybody that does watch, I'm not involved in the WFP in any way. I'm just a gym owner. I'm a spectator of the sport. So that's why I don't know any of that type of stuff. So that my reaction to that is based on that alone. But yeah, the underwriting of it, the movement of the logistics, the people, the feelings, the things you have to consider is like people could only understand 2-3% of it unless you're involved in that world. It's just mind-boggling. So to be able to pull it off is also equally a large feat, to be fair.
Before we came on, I was listening to Lunch with Clydesdale, and he's usually a very loud critic about what WFP does. And him and Corey, they're on, and they were giving nothing but love, saying for them to turn that around in basically 4 days, to have a venue, to have all this stuff go out. He's like kudos. He's like, not many people could do that. To have a venue, to have a date, to have all this stuff already taken care of in 4 days. It says a lot, and it says a lot about like and I'm biased. Me and Brian are both biased about this because we do work for WFP, but to see them work and pull that off.
So I am the other way. So I'm biased towards other organizations that have had nothing to do with WFP yet. And for me as an onlooker to go, wow, like the machine that takes to flip a switch on in that short time frame is mind-boggling. Like the people, the balls it takes, everything in between is just nuts.
Yeah, and you'll see, like, if you watch the whether it be Jackson's comment or his quote in the press release, or if you listen to Jason in the podcast in the tour talk, it's not lost on them that there are going to be some people upset. Like, they really wanted to make Mexico City happen. They really want to bring that to Mexico City, and there still is going to, that's in the future. It's going to be in the future, whether it be a WFP event or a Project One or some type of activation. They want to do that. I mean, that's why it was such a big deal for us to announce that to begin with. But to see how that machine has worked the last 4 days, it's been mind-boggling. And this is coming from a guy who's in the military. I work in logistics. I've seen how it works in the military, and that's when you have it's an amazing thing. Logistics is, but to see it done at this level in the CrossFit space or fitness space, I'm thoroughly impressed. And so kudos to that whole group.
I think it gives merit. So the things that went on last year with the couple of tour stops in Copenhagen, I think it gives so much merit to what's been built and how dynamic they can be in a situation like this, which is only going to hold true for how well it does in the future. Because if they can adapt to a situation like this, things are going to happen as time goes on, right? And it shows that in the face of something like that, they can just flick a switch and something like that happen, which is cool because it needs more stuff behind it to be like, yep, let's have confidence in how the longevity of this, right? Who's Gerard Butler? That's a question.
Yeah, from 300. He's the lead character from 300.
He's Googling it frantically.
Yeah.
No, he's a handsome guy. It must be filters.
Yeah. Well, this is actually a pretty good question to define. Do you think having unlimited has a lot to do with being able to pull it off? Well, Define Co. I mean,
let's just say this.
Despite what people think, there is not unlimited funds. There is not. You believe me, if there was unlimited funds, me and Brian wouldn't be working as hard as we do.
No, it's this. I mean, I can understand the tongue in cheek of this question, and obviously, there is a financial backing for the WFP that's allowing them to make a big play into the market in a relatively short amount of time. But that's a wild misappropriation. Patrick and I obviously are working for and with the WFP, and there's a lot of things that are considered when making these decisions. They might have more financial availability than many other competition organizers, but by no means is it unlimited. And you can have fun with that statement, but you got to let that go too.
It'll be interesting to see how well it lands. Obviously, turning it around, but money doesn't buy people's feelings. Money doesn't buy the payoff at the end. How well it goes, the participation. So yes, maybe for the logistics of putting it into another location, but assuming that it all lands well, that isn't something that money buys. That's how well you advertise it, the people you've got on it, how well the buy-in is, that type of stuff to me. So yeah, the point of that makes sense. It's quite funny, but I think at the same time it'll be interesting to see how it lands, which I think will probably be quite well this side anyway.
Steven, go ahead. Can you talk on, like, for us, me and Brian, we know it's kind of like, hey, I've been to a couple events in the UK. I went to Fit Fest in Birmingham, 2 years ago. I saw how crazy it is, and I've seen how High Rocks has taken a hold of the country, how Athletics has taken a hold of the country, how some of these other new events have just popped up in the UK. Can you talk about, like, and a lot of people don't also understand. Like, well, I think most people do geography, but Rogue is like the northernmost tip of the UK, but the center of the UK is London. To bring an event like this of this caliber to the UK, what's that mean for someone like? I mean, you talk about there is some buzz. I mean, I'm getting the buzz, you're hearing it, and it's like it's almost midnight where you're at, isn't it, or 10 o'clock or something? But
well, we're only at 7 now. It was last night we were on at silly o'clock.
Gotcha. But can you talk about coming from an affiliate for someone that has maybe a couple fingers on the pulse of the community in the UK, what something like this means?
So I think it's massive in a way that when we talk about distance wise and American people talk about distance, there's a very different thing. So London to where I am, you're talking bottom fifth of the UK, right? So it's still a long travel, but it's just a train away or just a small flight or whatever. And I think that the crowds in the UK for this type of stuff, if you get the buy-in and people understand it, it's massive, right? People love to make an occasion of things, and the big reason for that is that we're all really hard done by over here, right? We don't get much compared to other places, and that's why things like the High Rocks events and when I run Macomb locally and stuff, people go mad for it because there seems to be like quite a lot of appetite, but also things being put on in other places that aren't here. So when we get something, we really go mad for it. And any event, like when I went to Hybrid Games London, I shot a media on that. I've done any of these fitness races and stuff, and the atmosphere is just nuts. And it's because there isn't much else. And that doesn't mean to say that it's only good because there is nothing else. I just think it's this hunger for this thing, because here there's a very big divide. You either watch football, you guys watch soccer, rugby, or there's a couple of other sports. But if you're not into those things, fitness isn't as big. There isn't a spectacle of it, but there's this very committed community of people that want an outlet like that. And I think Rogue showed that well. The number of people that were just like, wow, this is on my doorstep, this is bonkers. And I think, fingers crossed, would be the reception that would be here. I think there's a little bit of the whole we're behind in the but CrossFit WFP thing, right? I think, but navigating that in a smart way, they can coexist. It's ridiculous, like for it not to be a thing like that. But I think if that aside, I think it would be ridiculous. The crowds, for all you have to do is look at any football matches that happen or Rugby World Cup matches or anything, and that atmosphere transfers into these events. That, in my opinion.
Yeah, and that's all. I mean, all throughout Europe, people got to see that in Copenhagen, and in the UK, it's going to be similar. I mean, Patrick and I have gone to so many events throughout Europe, and I was talking to a friend of mine who's in Europe, big influence in the European market in general, and he's like, it's this is a world circumstance that nobody loves to see, but it's precipitated a change that really allows a WFP to lean into a market that they know is bought into this kind of stuff. So sometimes,
yes, sorry, I think this also gives the UK from the other side an opportunity to show things like the WFP or whatever else that we are, even though we're smaller in stature than anywhere else, that we've got the people and the bodies and the buy-in for things like this. This is like, it's not only a chance for WFP to show what it does here, but it's a chance for the UK to show what it can do for WFP. There's the reverse side of it as well. And I think that depends on the gym buy-in, the people removing their bias, remaining agnostic of just loving fitness and loving competitive fitness. Because I think, if you can sort of not sell it, but sell it to the hybrid communities and the CrossFit communities and the functional communities, because it's everybody, because it's so much cooler to watch than almost every other sport on the planet. I am biased, but it's correct, right? So to get people to watch it and see that it's there and it exists, it's so cool. So yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you saw Jan. Did you see Jan's statement about Villa suck?
That's what you're focusing on?
Yeah, of course. Of course I am. You saw once we found, when we were talking about that, what did I message you, Brian?
What the dates and locations of relevant Premier League games?
Exactly. Because for people who don't know, if you've already looked it up, Drum Shed, is that, I believe that's how it's called, Drum Shed.
Yeah, that's right.
It's literally almost across the street from the Spurs stadium. So, of course, when I saw that, I was like, okay, maybe let's see if there's a soccer match going on. And of course there was. It was against Villa, but it's in Birmingham. So, but anyways.
Patrick, you want to pull up that question about the athletes?
Yeah.
because it was one of the main things that I was thinking
Yes.
about in the process of this, and I've already seen some people, having, and it's totally normal to have a immediate reaction to a big change like this. One of the things that's happened is WFP has extended their qualifier by a week. And I think if you haven't, I'm sure most people haven't had a chance to listen to the 10-minute podcast I did with Jason, because this has just happened. But, he talks about it. Like, that was also not an easy decision. And we know that there's athletes that signed up for the qualifier because it was in Mexico. There's likely also athletes that didn't sign up for it because it was in Mexico that might consider it now that it's much closer to where they live, easier for them to do in the midst of a wild semifinal season where you don't know necessarily how many times you're going to have to compete. And we're talking about like high caliber athletes here. But Steven, I wanted to get your perspective on this because for years, Europe in general, and I have also pushed this narrative, like they haven't been getting, I think, some of the credit that they deserve for the depth of talent that they have. And to be fair, especially on the men's side, there maybe hasn't been, I mean, yeah, Lucas Högberg popped up there for 1 year. BKG, obviously. Iona can get in the top 10, but there hasn't been the threatening to win athlete out of Europe. But there's a ton of depth there. And they haven't always gotten the same number of semifinal spots to the games, but even to compete at semis. This year, actually, CrossFit's given both of their premier semifinals tied for the most number of qualifying spots, 3 and 3 at both French and Mad Fitness Festival, which is pretty cool. But I'm thinking to myself, if you're one of those athletes, like, this is just in London, like, you could do this competition and keep yourself alive in both seasons pretty easily.
Yeah, I think so. There's so much, like, you look at some of the standards and even tracking data of numbers of lifts and times of benchmarks and all this stuff, like comps like up here, like proving grounds and whatever. So because of, my lens of looking at stuff, of organizing comps, of running a gym, of benchmarking people, and you see some of the scores coming out of guys that are winning the proving grounds comps, and you're like, these numbers and these times are not a million miles away. Like, I know that everybody goes, yeah, there's levels and there's levels, then there's games athlete levels. But actually, if you take like a step back and go, a push to that, they aren't a million miles away. And I just think it's like, because it looks like it's so far away from a games contention or from a whatever, I think more of these stages, I think you'll start to see some people that we recognize that we thought were quite good are actually brilliant. And they now have a stage to be able to go and shoot their shot at, and I think there will be so much of that all over Europe as well, not just the UK, but all over Europe, but mainly the UK, because there is a lot of talented people that are way better than they think they are. And yeah, a stage like this is just something that I think you'll see people pop up very fast. And from a character perspective, the American thing is cool, but like we as UK, and we spoke about this the other day, you only have to look at the difference between the BBC and CNN or whatever. The difference of personality is very different. And I think that it will skyrocket them from a personality perspective. So if they've got the talent, I think the personality thing with a big crowd of very enthusiastic people behind them, I think you'll see people skyrocket in the space quite fast because of those two things combined are massive. Because you've got very good athletes and all they need is some people to support them and tell them how good they are. And they'll be at the top of the game and they'll be top of socials and all that type of stuff. So I think it's really cool that way, for sure. It's a good question, good topic.
I got a question for both of you. I mean, okay, so this happens May 1st and 3rd. 2 weeks later is the French Throwdown. And at the end of the month, the end of May, is the Madrid Throwdown. If you're an athlete in Europe, let's say you do the French Throwdown and you don't make it and you try to go, try to punch your ticket through Madrid, which I don't know what the qualification base, I don't know if they'll get an invite or whatnot. Or so basically you try to give yourself 2 shots, 3 shots if you count the online semifinal to make the games, or do you try to go, or do you balance it out and like, you know what, there's a possibility I don't make the games, but there is a really good chance I can get my pro card if I do this at the beginning of the month. Like if I'm an athlete that's going to Madrid and I originally did not commit to go to Mexico City, I would do tour stop 1 in the UK, because then you have roughly over 3 weeks to still prepare and rest up for Madrid. And you still, if you don't make it there, you still have the online semifinal. That's just my thought process.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting it's another interesting nuance to the season because it's basically WFP in London, 2 weeks, French Throwdown, 2 weeks, Madrid, 2 weeks, online qualifier. I wouldn't recommend anyone doing all of those things. By the way,
But someone will.
Someone might.
That was my comment on this was Brian. I don't think we have enough data yet to decide if there is anyone superhuman enough to be able to try all of them and succeed at one, right? Because just now we look at it and think, there's the whole argument between, you have to choose this side because you're not going to be able to keep up a whole season and then also compete in the game. I think not yet. And I think that the training level increases to the level of the demand. And if the idea is like people are super mutants, and if people know that, right, I'm going to have to take 4 shots to get into the top level of whatever stage it is, I'm going to train to the ability to take 4 shots at doing this thing. And so I think maybe not year 1, maybe it doesn't happen, but you'll just watch the level of training, the level of adaptation just rise. In my opinion, potentially we've already maxed out human capacity. I doubt it. But I just think you'll see the level of that rise of people taking more shots, and more shots are better for people to get on some sort of stage, right?
Yeah, I mean, I was just thinking because I think that after the declines in the backfields, there were 21 new signed pros this year with WFP, and like 40% of them live in Europe, which means that last year they took all these athletes had to do both online qualifiers. They had to travel to the States twice. Then they had to go to Copenhagen, compete, and earn their way in. And like I said, man, there's a lot of depth in Europe, and now it's right there. Like this is even though there's the open workout this week, the caliber of athlete we're talking about, they can do the open workout with very little stress. You can be excited for the open and don't need to stress it, and do these 3 workouts. And what's the worst thing that happens? That you don't qualify? Okay, whatever. Then the path is clear. If you do qualify, you get a chance to sit down with your team. You still don't have to accept the invitation. You just keep the door open. And if you do go to the WFP event, the caliber athlete I'm thinking about are like I'm talking about athletes who can actually make the games in Europe and are so focused on that. But like when the game season ends, you still have 2/3 of the WFP season to go, and it's so hard to get into any meaningful competition in the back half of the year. Look at Harry Lightfoot. Like this guy made it an incredible run at the games, got to Rogue. Yes, it was incredible there, but he finished near the bottom. And what's the other option? Wodapalooza SoCal? Like that's a invite only event. The games ends. If you've done this, well, you can, you have a second half of the year with a huge opportunity before you.
Mm-hmm. And there's another lens to look at this from, which is no one really talks about it. So you got the teens games, but that's all it really gets. But BF3 and IF3 and this type of thing. Some of the, like, I'm speaking with a guy on Friday that does work with BF3, and I'm talking about the second day of my comp in August, putting on a teens division at the end of it. And some of the numbers, like I'm like, oh well, I come up with workouts. It's going to be, we'll have light, Fran, and this. And he's like, what are you talking about? I want ring muscle ups, bar muscle ups, handstand walks. And I'm like, huh? And so the level of adaptation, I just think we're 3 or 4 years away from having 17 to 20-year-old super mutant cyborgs. And I think this level of season, not the whole just peak once, do open when it was regionals or semis and then to games. I think like people are going to have big, long, year-long seasons. They're going to retire much quicker for sure. But I think that they're going to have so much more and be able to do so much more. That's where I think the real fun happens, when they move up into that next part and have more of these things. So like you say, 2/3 of the year to do more stuff, because otherwise you're quiet for 2/3 of the year, which is half the reason why half of the games athletes, apart from the very top echelon, have to keep full-time work, have to keep full-time everything. It's because they've got 2/3 of their year with it's just in the garage training, because they're not doing stuff that's out there in the world for more sponsors, for more stuff, for more appearances, right? It's it's one of those.
Well, and and just like I'm trying to be very practical in how I think about this. I was just looking last week, Colin Bossard, and I don't know what Colin's ultimate plans or goals are, but like this is a guy who tried everything last year. He got a backfill invite to WFP, accepted a pro card for this year. Week before the open, he hurts himself back squatting, announces this on his Instagram. Like he can still choose to try the open, try the game season if he wants to, but he doesn't have to. He could also make the decision that Emma Lawson made last year, which is my back's not 100%. She's talked about this. So I chose a competition season that's predictable. I was able to train around that. I also didn't have to sell out on my max clean at the first tour stop or whatever it was, max jerk, because I know that there's 24 events I'm being scored over. She ended up getting stronger throughout the year, got to the end of the year, reevaluated. This year, she decided to pass on the WFP Pro card, to go after the games. She sees an opportunity to maybe win. She's got a taste of a podium. Tia's not competing. Laura's probably not doing the games. Like, this is, to me, is just a very mature decision in 1 year that sets her up for having options in a second year. And Colin's just an example. But, if the back's bothering you, take the smart road. Take Brent Fikowski's advice. Best ability is availability. Make yourself available. Manage a WFP season. Make the decision you need to at the end of the year for next year.
I think the future of how large this whole space gets requires some very grown-up agnostic conversations from people that have their fingers in certain pies, which is fine. People need to make money from their thing, they need to do their own thing, but I really think the longevity, we all, what is it, rising tides rise all ships, or whatever it is. You've got a BF3 over here and a WFP here and a CrossFit here and all these things. If there's people like you guys are relatively agnostic, even though you work for the WFP, like me, the Continuum guys, we all are like, fitness is fitness, and this is a mechanism that works. If it's a good mechanism, it gets people into it. If there are enough people shout that from the bleachers, I think everything works well, and I think the future of all of these things is massive. I do, however, think that if it continues to have very loud, the odd charlatan in each area, I think that does more damage than good for all of their things, including the thing that they're shouting about in the first place.
We have big job opportunities with WFP, but I'm working at Wadapalooza this year. We're working in Madrid semifinal this year. I worked at IF3 World Championships last year. We're with you, man. We're supporting fitness, and we are recognizing the the increased opportunities for athletes because of the initiatives that all these different organizations are making. And that's why I'm just sitting here saying, like, the landscape changed again today. We wanted to have this conversation with someone who it was obviously a big deal for. It represents a community it's a big deal for, but also just being conscious of the fact that it's not an easy landscape for athletes to know what to do. And we wanted to have this conversation just to put it out there for people to process if they're, looking for someone who's not emotionally invested in what they're doing, but just trying to roll with the flow of the changing landscape in another somewhat volatile year.
Yeah. And I think, just again, like you said, talking about what is available, what a season could look like for somebody in those scenarios you talked about, because you've got people are so locked into their training and so locked into the thing that they've got that they can't see wood for the trees situation. Well, there is this avenue to go and do the thing I love despite these circumstances, despite a tour stop change, or despite, family things that happen in the year, or despite there isn't just one avenue to pursue this thing that you do, right?
Okay, do it.
Yeah, you get it. You get time.
Okay, yeah. Me and Base Show and some of the other guys have started a YouTube channel, Continuum Channel, and we're trying to do all things fitness in the UK, give it a bit more of an oomph behind it. So yeah, Continuum Channel on YouTube. There are loads of different shows, loads of different people on there, so you can catch us over there or through Base Show.
I have an idea. Why don't we link you guys up with Jason Ansley from WFP to talk about this on a channel?
Brian, stay in your lane. Stay in your lane. That's my job.
I think it's a great idea.
You don't think I've already done that? You're trying to make me look bad. Brian over here trying to take my job at WFP. Brian, it's already taken care of. And they already applied for media passes, so I appreciate that.
Right, I'm gonna go jet and continue toilet training. It was great chatting, and super excited for this. And I'm gonna continue the steamroll of excitement on social media, because it's so cool. I think everybody needs to know it's cool.
You're doing good stuff over there, man. Thanks for taking time in the midst of evening with the family.
Very welcome.
We'll see you.
Good luck on your potty training.
Catch up with you guys soon. Thank you. Right. See you later. Bye-bye.
Bye. Brian, one thing and Steven, he's not on here now, but you can answer this question is one thing is the financial implication too, because obviously top 30 pays out at WFP. So, that's $1,500. You finished in top 30, or I forgot what the payout was. It's 30th through 26th, $1,500, and then it goes up after that. But for like, if I'm an athlete and I know I'm not going to do very well, I just like, I don't know what the payouts at French Throwdown or Madrid is, but the thing is the high probability of them competing at a competition, getting points towards a pro card, and also receiving money. It's I don't know. It just seems like the benefit is more towards WFP in that aspect, but obviously I do understand the lure of the games and wanting to get there. So
what I've observed early in this season, obviously at the very, very top of the sport, but also amongst people who I think have legitimate chances to get to the games for the first time or maybe the second time this season, is that is still a massive it still has a massive pull for
appeal.
Athletes.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm
a games athlete.
Well, and it's totally understandable. I mean, most of the athletes that we're talking about, if they're trying to make the games for the first or second time, they're likely between the ages of 20 and 30, and probably 23 to 28 for most of those athletes. That means that they grew up watching either Rich Froning and or Matt Fraser, Tia Toomey, and Katrin Davidsdottir, and these Laura Horvath that inspired them in some way to want to chase this pursuit. And when you've had and nobody walks into a semifinal and makes the games after training in a CrossFit gym for 6 months. It doesn't happen anymore. You got to put in years of pursuing that. And when you've had a goal on the calendar, I mean, look at what Jason Hopper shared this year. I doubt that more than a dozen people had seen that notebook page from 2019 until he made that public last month. That was 2019.
Yeah.
To get to the goal in 2025 of winning it. And I immediately thought of Ben Smith. And when he won the games in 2015, and he showed a note from his fridge in his parents' garage gym from 6 years earlier. Like, it takes a long time. It takes obviously the genetics, the work ethic, the discipline, the support system. Like, it's a crazy thing, but it doesn't happen overnight. So I totally understand the athletes who have been chasing this, and that they might feel now, whether it's because their closest friends or their training partners or their coach or themselves is telling them, no, you're good enough now. Like, you're in the mix. You got to balance that out, though. Like, the nature of the CrossFit Games season, and I think that everyone knows this, even if they don't always remember it, is that nothing's guaranteed. And I'm not even talking about the financial side of things, because we understand that that's a sliding scale and that the payout at the games is structured differently for different reasons. No, I'm talking about getting to the games. You can be the best guy, or actually the best girl in Europe, like Sam Briggs was in 2014. She was probably the best in the world. She didn't make it. You're not, you can be the best one on paper, the best one on my rankings, the best one from last year, and show up to French Throwdown and not make it for weird circumstances. Look what happened to Miriam last year at French Throwdown. No one's fault, just a weird thing that happened. Nothing's guaranteed. So that's why I'm so curious today, especially for athletes in Europe. I feel like it's a much, like, suddenly the barrier for being relevant in a WFP season is a lot less for athletes that are likely going to finish somewhere between 1 and 10, 1 and 15 at a French Throwdown or a Madrid fitness festival. And I feel like there's athletes in that category that were not considering WFP because going to Mexico was going to put them at a disadvantage in terms of giving them the best chance at one of those two semifinals. But now going to London actually kind of keeps a lot more things open for them. And if French Throwdown's your main area of interest, that's definitely a risk, but the risk was there anyway.
Yeah.
And the thing is that if you do WFP and you do well, and I think that a lot of the athletes I'm talking about could do well, finish in the top 20 or 30 there, even if you have the perfect game season or not, then, go to the games and do great. Amazing. we saw last year, plenty of athletes could rebound and perform 3 weeks later. Now you got 5 weeks. Yeah, you got to make one trip to the US. But what if you actually end up in the top 20 this year by the time things are said and done? Not only all the financial implications, you have a season laid out for you next year with no qualifiers, travel covered, etc. You've also, a lot of these athletes, what are they missing? They're missing relevant competitive experience. WFP offers that. This is a big stage. There's a big broadcast. There's a big talent team. You're going to be in the spotlight. You're going to get to walk out there, compete in front of big crowds in Europe, possibly twice this year, and once in the US. And for a 23 to 28-year-old athlete that is actually good enough to make it on these stages, even if you don't get the pro card, you get the experience, you get the travel, you get the learning, and maybe you're more dialed in for the run at the games if that's your ultimate pursuit the next year.
You brought up the 2 European semifinals. I'm actually looking at the Mayhem Classic and what this does for some of those athletes competing at the Mayhem Classic, specifically someone like Lucy Campbell, Gabby Magawa, maybe Emma, Haley Adams, Claudia Gluck, Lucy McGonigal, especially the European athletes competing at Mayhem Classic, but it's more specifically the athletes who win or finish in the top 3 spots. I mean, there's a good possibility Lucy Campbell finishes in the top 3 at Mayhem Classic, punches her tickets to the games. She doesn't have anything to do to the games. Guess what? Guess what's in her backyard now?
Yeah, I would be very –
London,
that's a great shout. Lucy Campbell in particular is a fascinating case study given this new information, because I would say I'm looking at the Mayhem Classic roster here. It's a good roster,
yes.
But on paper, you're thinking Lucy Campbell, Emma Lawson, probably Ariel Lowen or Olivia Kerstetter. Like, these are the favorites. Now, there's others that could fight for those spots for sure. But, Lucy, Emma, Ariel, Olivia, these are like consensus top 7, 8 in the world at worst athletes right now. There's only 3 spots. If Lucy gets one of them, which I would say that the chances are better than 50-50 that she would.
Correct.
Why wouldn't she do this?
Well, one, she'd have to petition for an invite because she didn't do the qualifiers. She declined her pro card. I mean, like I said, I'm not going to speak for the WFP, but I would probably.
Well, I guess I'm saying from her perspective.
Yeah, from her perspective, yes, exactly. I mean,
I would just be contacting WFP and saying, "Hey, curious."
Yeah.
If I qualify at Mayhem and I want to compete in London, is there a way for me to do that, or is it too late? And then it's up to WFP to make that decision. Yeah, you can do the qualifier, or we will give you an invite or whatever. I don't know what their answer would be, but absolutely. And I mean,
and look at it this way: she declined her pro card, right? I think she was in line to make how much by accepting her pro card? I believe 70,000, 75 or 70.
Yeah.
I think it might have been 65, 70 because she finished tied for 3rd or whatever. I don't know what the tiebreaker was.
Say it's at least 50K minimum.
Yeah, at least 50K. So if she would have signed a pro card, she would have had a 50K guaranteed contract for this year. She declined her pro card. Let's say she finishes top 3 Mayhem, punches her card at Mayhem. Guess what? She can come to London. I'm not saying she wins London, but if you win London, you get 35K. And you keep your WFP season alive. And guess what? That keeps her.
Maybe she's smarter than all of us.
I know. She has an opportunity to make more money by not being a signed pro with this change. Because if she wins London and she goes to Indianapolis, which is after the game season, if she gets an invite there or does a qualifier or whatever, she does well there. I mean,
what about this, Jan Clark?
Yeah.
It would be insane. For Lucy and Harry not to be there. And Harry Lightfoot isn't, we mentioned him earlier that I've talked about him as a kind of case study from last season. Chose the games path, had I would say by all accounts, a successful season. 12th, qualifies for Rogue, gets that experience, ignites the crowd there, great memories, increases his notoriety. Amazing. He qualified online.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, for the games.
Yep. And he's
This is in London, dude. Like you think Scotland was cool?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I want to see Tom Kingdom there too.
Oh yeah, 100%. If Tom Kingdom isn't like, boom, I'm signed up. Yeah, if he's not signed up, or the Reggie Fossas, if I'm not, just athletes like that. Oh,
Yeah.
hey, let's talk about Ryan. Ryan's in the chat here, and he had a very interesting comment on the Instagram post. So Ryan is one of those athletes that did sign up. Today would have been the deadline. Um, by extending it a week, you're giving other opportunities. It's kind of a, I'm not saying Ryan, I'm trying, what am I saying here? What am I trying to say, Ryan? Basically, Ryan has a really good chance of making, let's say Ryan has a really good chance of making WFP Tour Stop 1, if it would have ended today, because I forgot how many people signed up or whatnot, but they take a minimum of 15 from the online semifinals. So there's a really good chance that Ryan could finish in the top 15. By extending a week and giving other people opportunity, it's kind of taking away opportunities from Ryan, and to no fault of his own.
Well, the field could get stronger. That's what you're trying to say. And
yeah,
exactly. I think people I think that, WFP, from their actions, it's made it clear, like, they want to have a world-class field there.
Yeah. I get that.
You can also look at if you've been looking at the qualifier signups, like there's a significant amount of people, I believe, just based on the country flags, that have signed up for this qualifier because they thought it was in Mexico City.
Mexico.
Yeah. And I would expect that those people will reach out to WFP and say, hey, I signed up hoping for a chance because it was in Mexico. It's not anymore. I probably wouldn't have, and WFP will have to deal with that. On the flip side, I'm sure that there's athletes, we kind of referenced it earlier, that live internationally that were like, man, WFP seems like a cool option, but going to Mexico, then going to Indiana, I also want to try my shot at my semifinal. And it just doesn't make sense, and they had to make a decision. But now it's in London. It's a lot easier for people to get there, even not just in Europe, but people who are expats that are living in the UAE, in the Middle East, guys like Callie and Souza. Suddenly he might be like, oh, a trip to London, that's not so bad. Now he might be also going to Copa Sur, which is the same weekend, I think. So he may not consider it, but just an example.
No. Yeah. I don't know. It's yeah. I mean, we were discussing,
and this is true, and Ryan is super. He's just a level-headed guy.
Ryan.
He gets it, but he's also not wrong about this. When there is an online qualifier and the stakes are big, and you're as good as these guys are, you get, kind of nervous, excited for that last day to come, because then it's over and you just let your work either carry you through or it wasn't good enough and you move on. Now that it's extended a week, and I saw other responses from a few athletes online, I think Fabian Benito put something up, but that's what I said at the beginning. I promise you, whoever you are, whether you think this is a good thing, a bad thing, an opportunity or an opportunity lost, like the guys who have to make decisions for WFP have thought about that. They've talked about it ad nauseum. They've reached out to government officials, key people in the community, and it's not a decision that was made lightly.
I'm already seeing new names on here already on the leaderboard, or not the leaderboard, but the sign up.
Well, and that could be because the deadline was supposed to be 7 hours from now, but it could also be because they're excited after this announcement, I suppose. I mean, Jan says, Reggie Fawcett, God, I'd love to see Reggie do it, man. He looked so freaking good at the Crucible. I couldn't believe it. The conditioning has come such a long way. Him and Taylor Howe both, like, the skill sets that they had previously with the aerobic base that they've built now, I think is absolutely like games qualification, pro card qualification, relevant fitness. Tom K is crazy. The score they see him put up in Brute. There's a lot of good athletes in the UK. We talk about it more on the women's side than the men's side, and especially in WFP last year, because you had Lucy and Amy and Ella Wilkinson and Jen Muir, whereas the guys mostly did the game season. But yeah, this is a big opportunity for athletes, I think.
How about this opportunity for Ella and Jen Muir? I mean, just, we brought it up last year. It's like, man, it would, I think we both talked about it, but like having one of them, how, especially Jennifer didn't get invited to Rogue, and how that was kind of a miss, that she didn't receive one of those invites, being a top 20 games athlete, but now both of them get to kind of compete in their country, especially like Ella. I think.
Well, and I mean, I would just say, I mean, there's a lot of European athletes that are on the pro roster, and like they were committed no matter what. Some of them already booked tickets to Mexico, but this is like you're just going about business as usual, and suddenly you get a home game instead of a road game as the first tour stop. I mean, it's kind of like Christmas come early for the I was talking with Anyola Kai earlier today, and he's like, wow, this is great. It's like, it is great.
Yeah.
So,
well, I mean, think about someone like who I think Amy is doing both the game season to know that one, you don't have to travel. And I still think Amy probably will do really well in the online semifinal. I don't know which semifinal she's doing, but I think she's one of those athletes who'd be a contender for one of those online semifinal spots. But either way, it's like, guess what? She doesn't have to travel very far now for her.
And I mean, I guess the main thing is, like, as an athlete, the mindset just has to be that I'm going to roll with the punches. Like, I'm going to roll with the changes. We've talked about this forever with the game season. Like, if you're seriously good enough to make the CrossFit Games or to be on the stage at a WFP event or Wadapalooza or Rogue, you can't get caught up in all these little things. Like, you train, you compete, you take the opportunities when they come. If something changes, if a bad call happens, if whatever, you have to have the mindset that, like, I train to do hard things. I deal with the changes in life and in competition as they come my way. And, I think James Sprague said this to me one time. He's like, listen, man, when I have a bad workout, I allow myself to feel it for 5 to 10 minutes and I move on. So whatever you're feeling about this change, like, process it and just move on with it. And if it means a bonus thing for you in terms of less travel, great. If it means that you're a U.S. signed pro, we haven't talked about this yet. Like, if you're a signed pro in the U.S. that is especially planning to compete, I would say, at Legends, now that's the type of athlete where this is a little bit more challenging for, because it's 1 week apart, and Legends down to Mexico City, not such a big trip, but Legends across to London is a little bit bigger of a trip. So it's good for some. It's more challenging for others. It's unfortunate for, nobody wants to see this have to happen, but everybody wants to see Pat Vellner in his last year of competition.
It's so cool that he brings this up because I don't know if you guys you were there last year, but you weren't. But when Fikowski, the chance, the love that Fikowski was getting in his last competition, and it really meant a lot to Fikowski. I remember talking to him about that. They were doing a soccer chance for Brent. It was just really cool. And I like I said, this is a chance for Pat to kind of do a world tour. And Pat has, competed in the UK many a times. And I think that would be really cool for him to kind of like a bucket list item on his last tour. I kind of compare it to the John Cena world tour, and this, he brought up another. I mean, the Bay Show, they're just full of information. Monday the 4th of the bank holiday after party is going to be massive, which is so crazy because the venue itself is known for concerts and raves. It can hold 15,000 people. And like I said, he went to a rave a few moons back, and again, the venue is insane. So, I know it's pretty cool.
We weren't planning to do a show today. Obviously, this is a big change to a season that has, big implications for a lot of, invested people and people that we know and care about. And just thought it would be cool, especially that we were able to get Steven on to get his perspective from someone in the community there. Obviously, the guys in the chat, Jan and Jake, and these guys from the UK as well.
Define everything. Yeah.
And then just to put some of our thoughts out there, because, we care about these athletes, these coaches, competition organizers a lot, and it does cause a wrinkle in things. So hopefully this is helpful for some of those people to just process all the different ways that this could impact. And it's also, there's an element of fun. Like, it's kind of, it's interesting at the very least for me to see if there are some people who may choose to do this. They weren't planning on it otherwise. And, in any situation, you can choose to dwell on the challenges or the negative aspects of it. I mean, I think it was very appropriate the way that Jackson talked about, and Jason also talked about the disappointment of not being able to do this in Mexico City. Like there's reasons why they chose to go there, the community being a huge part of it. It's not a slight against Mexico or their community or the Latin American community in any way. It's trying to do the best thing in a tough situation. And that's out there. Everyone knows about it. Everyone has to try to reevaluate it. And so our goal with this was to try to help people look at all sides of the changing landscape.
Before we go, I kind of want to show you. I don't know if you saw it, but I thought this was really cool. It was it's Grace Lochner.
Oh yeah, with Katrin
doing the qualifiers, the WFP qualifiers with Katrin.
I think if I remember, I watched this last night, and Katrin was basically behind her, and then she just like skipped a couple rounds to run with her fast at the end.
Yeah,
or skipped a couple movements or something.
Yeah, but look at, I mean, like, she's doing this with Tori Dyson, Pat Sprague. I mean, it's really cool. I love to see it. Especially someone like Katrin who's retired, but she's still like, understand that there's a younger generation out there and that they can help them out somewhere somehow.
Hey, I would say that you're doing a qualifier workout and you got Pat Sprague in the lane next to you, you're immediately going to be 5 to 10% better.
Yeah.
Now you're doing it. Katrin Davidsdottir in the lane next to you. Yeah. Smart move, Grace Lochner.
Yeah. Well, I just thought that was really cool. I mean, I don't know if you saw that video. She's now, James' training partner there, and when her goals was to get a pro card, and I just think that's really cool. And for someone like her, and just her maturity and in her experience, and I just think it's really cool, and you love to see stuff like that.
Yep. We started the show with eating a Gazan gummy. I was talking to Carl with HGR CBD, obviously been a longtime supporter of ours. It sounds like the website is very close to going live. They've partnered up with the Ironman, AC Green. They've got some new branding.
AC Green.
The purple logo, and obviously also with Alex Gazan, and the Gazan gummies will be available soon. So we'll, of course, update you guys when that is live, but if it's something that's interesting to you, be on the lookout. There'll be a new website and some new products to buy to support those guys who support, the community. Obviously, they've supported other media outlets and personalities besides us. They go to competitions to compete and to represent. So Carl's got a huge passion for this thing at every level, and if it's possible for you to support him, be on the lookout in the next week or so.
Yeah, and our code will be good for that. So if you use B.Friendly at checkout, you'll get 20% off. So,
did you have It's Tea Time up there the entire time?
Yes, it is.
I just noticed that.
Yep.
Why don't you scroll this thing across?
There we go. Look at you. You've gotten so good at this. You don't even need me anymore.
Well, yes and no. I didn't quite schedule this correctly today.
Oh, okay. That's right. I can.
You had to bail me out.
No, that's fine.
You always do.
But thanks everyone for joining. Like I said, last minute, really good show. Thanks for the guys over on the other side of the pond. I look forward to seeing you guys very soon now. I'm pretty sure you guys are excited about it. I've already gotten a bunch of media requests, and I'm excited. I'm really excited about this. I mean, like I said, I was excited about going to Mexico City, and again, I've never been, and I really want to go. And I've heard nothing but great things about the community. And like Jackson said, like Jason said, like you've said, it's like it sucks. It really does. But that's why they're in those positions.
When tough situations come up, you got to make the best decision with the information you have. And after that decision is made, you got to try to make the best of it.
Yeah.
And that's life.
Yeah. And they got the advice and the facts they got from some, we're talking like head of states type people from all around. So it's not like they just watched the news. They weren't watching the news. They were getting information, from the ground and from people there and people within agencies there as well. And you just don't know. You're right. Maybe from 2 months from now, everything's going to be peachy, but you got to go with the information you have today, especially when people are trying to lock in flights, hotels, stuff like that. Logistically, it just didn't make any sense right now. And luckily we, the people we have that are in charge of that have made amazing decisions. And I think the venue, I think overall it's going to be really cool and can't wait. So like Brian said, the girls are on tonight, right? No, they're on tomorrow. Tomorrow we have a show, Fitness Under Fire show debuting, where Brian Jacqueline is joined by Jacqueline Dahlstrom along with Clay and Scotty, and they're picking their basically who they think is going to win each workout during the Open. And then
just
the girls,
open announcements.
open announcements. So that'll be coming on tomorrow. I forgot what time. I believe 2 p.m. Central. I'll have to double check. And then the girls will have a show tomorrow night. I believe their show is basically going to be recapping the Open announcement. So that'll be kind of cool to, jump on with them and, hear their assessment of the Open announcement. And then, yeah. So appreciate you guys joining us. Thanks, guys. Thanks to HERCBD. I need some. And as always, be friendly, our friends.